Hello, loves. Obviously, at this point, I have to just be honest that I'm probably never going to be fully consistent. I will try my best, but I enjoy talking with you guys and I wanted to share a life update because it's been a couple weeks. And I know one of the things I kind of talked about was looking into getting evaluated for autism. And that evaluation happened last Friday. And I do indeed have autism. So even saying it just feels weird. And I'll talk about that. But first, I want to just share like a bit of my process and how it came to be. So I've been talking about the burnout that I was going through slash still going through. It's gotten better. But things still feel slightly hard to do in certain areas like socializing and things of that nature. So talked with my therapist about it. And then she went over the DSM criteria, said, you do fit it. You do fit the criteria, but if you want to get evaluated, that's valid. And I'm a mental health professional myself. So technically, I have the knowledge to diagnose, right? Um, I just am in a constant state of gaslighting. And I feel like for this one, especially so, because the people in my life who I know have autism are usually assigned male at birth people who were early diagnosed, right? So never anyone like myself, and just having masked for pretty much my entire life. I was like, no. I was like, it's the trauma, it's the anxiety, but I obviously did want some answers. Um, and so the evaluator that I ended up working with, they were fantastic. One of the reasons why I was drawn to getting evaluated by them was just looking at their website. They expressed working with high masking femme people, being one themselves. They also share they were chronically ill, which I also am. And obviously just affirming when it came to things like gender identity, and also mentioning kind of the racial component. Black femme people are more often misdiagnosed and not given an autism or ADHD diagnosis. And so I wanted to make sure I was evaluated by someone who was like culturally competent and saw all those layers, right? Um, and so I felt pretty good about going into it. And so I want to acknowledge my privilege in being able to get diagnosed or being able to get evaluated. So living in America, being an American, our healthcare system, I can give a whole rant about that. But obviously, there's a lot of hoops and hurdles and barriers to go through. Typically, being diagnosed with autism is easier when you're a child than when you're an adult. I don't know exactly why. And then ADHD is also more easier to get diagnosed, I think, kind of at any age as opposed to autism. So once again, being diagnosed as an adult with autism can be really hard. And, once again, usually you do have to go out of pocket, which I did. So I acknowledge my privilege in being able to do so. I paid $1,300 for a combined autism and ADHD evaluation. I felt more certain about the autism, but I just wanted to explore the ADHD, kind of like might as well. And I think 1,300 is justified. Um, people, you have to get training to be able to provide these evaluations. And, if they give you certain like testing and assessments, which I did give assessments to complete, the mental health provider has to like maybe pay for those, right? Like subscription based, or, pay for them every time they want to administer them to a client. So I think the 1300 for autism ADHD is justifiable. They did have a like kind of sliding scale, and you picked one out of three tiers um, to choose from based on what you could afford. And so I did it virtually. I could have gone in office because they actually were like close to me, but once again, maybe the neurodivergent part, I just wanted to be at home. So I did it virtually, and it was about 3.5 hours. Started at 1, didn't end until like 4:30, and we had a couple of like 5-minute breaks here and there. But yeah, they were great, affirming. They asked at the beginning if I wanted feedback at the end or in between. And I struggled to pick which one I wanted to do, but I decided to get feedback in between. And during the process, they were like, just once again, validating my experience. A lot of questions just kind of about things around my childhood and just hitting all the marks, right? Sensory stuff, socially, special interests. And because I have multiple sclerosis and my memory isn't as great, I was worried I would struggle to recall enough from my childhood to justify a diagnosis. But they said that they felt comfortable in diagnosing me with autism spectrum disorder. The ADHD was kind of gray, and so they gave me some more assessments to follow up on. And so I will hear more when I meet with them in a couple of weeks for the follow up. And that's like going to be 20 minutes. And that's just to kind of go over my 40 to 50 page report that they will give me, and just looking and talking about resources and how to move forward. So, yeah. Um, as I mentioned earlier, just that kind of the feelings that have come up for me. Still imposter syndrome, still asking myself, do I really have autism? Did I make up shit during my evaluation? Did I recall memories wrong? Um, yeah, just because of the whole, once again, I've been navigating like this for most of my life. And, just, I don't know. I don't know. It's a lot to process. I'm a delayed processor, so I know this is going to take time. And I'm happy to have answers. Once again, I'm happy to have answers, and I acknowledge the privilege in being able to get evaluated and get this validation. It's so validating for me, I think, to know, like, it definitely, when I look back on my life, it kind of adds an additional layer and things make a little bit more sense. Why maybe I struggle to make friendships, or I was taken advantage of for certain situations, why I'm very detailed. And when I write, I can't be concise. Once again, moments where I get overstimulated, and just why I've navigated and dealt with big feelings most of my life. And so, yeah, I think a component to recognize too is there is going to be some grief as far as, once again, grieving that I wasn't diagnosed sooner, but because I was high masking, and also with my family dynamics, I can see why it was missed. But yeah, that's it. And see, it's already almost at the 10-minute mark. Once again, very detail oriented. That's part of the autism. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. And I'll probably talk more about my journey and just all the things of just learning to unmask and be my authentic self. So, as always, thank you guys for listening.